Katie Grabowski, you are the Colorado State Director for MUFON, Mutual UFO Network. You're the State Director for Colorado. This is a national group. Briefly describe what your group does.
Basically, when people have a sighting of something they can't explain, they will fill out a report and send it to MUFON on their website. And we have a great team of field investigators here in the state that will receive the case, and we will contact the witness within 48 hours, interview them. Sometimes it will go out on property and take photos and collect evidence. A lot of the work we do, though, is online. We do Flight Radar 24, Heavens Above. So we get a gamut from lights in the sky, Starlink satellites, to truly unknowns. Most of the time we can predict 85% of the time what it is the witness saw: lens flares, birds in the sky, but that leaves the remaining 15% that remains unexplained.
And I want to talk about that. Your group actually takes a very scientific approach to these investigations.
Yes, we certainly do. We, like I said, we do our due diligence to try and explain to the witness what it is they saw. And most of the time it has a very terrestrial, conclusion to the report. But sometimes we're left scratching our heads.
So your group actually, your investigators will actually physically go out, interview people, and talk to people like a regular field investigator then?
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes we even collect soil samples and, different evidence. So take photos, use our K2 meters, and try to actually find a scientific explanation as to what's going on here.
How long have you been doing this for?
I joined MUFON in 2012. I came right in as a field investigator. You go through a gamut of training. There's MUFON University, so you take a lot of classes, you have to take a test, you do a background check. We have continuous field investigator training every month, so you're continuously getting educated, interview processes and whatnot. But I joined to really look for answers to experiences that I had as a young girl out in Elbert County, Colorado.
Yeah. And what were those experiences?
Out in Elbert County, Colorado, between 1975 and 1978, there were hundreds of cattle mutilations. Linda Moulton Howe did a film, Strange Harvest, that talked a lot about that. But on top of that, there were a lot of UFO sightings, interceptors that crashed, paranormal activity going on, just really high strangeness. If anybody's heard of the Skinwalker Ranch in Utah, it was very similar to that. The height of it, like I said, was 1975 to 1978. And I've just been researching and looking for explanations to that phenomenon.
So you've been doing this for quite a while now.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the report that's due out to Congress that's supposed to hit at least by June 25th regarding UAPs and UFOs. I bet a lot of people in the UFO community that you're a part of are highly anticipating this report. I know your opinion does not reflect all of MUFON, but what's your personal thought about this report coming out?
Yeah, I think, my personal report, and many people I talk to within the UFO community are a little apprehensive, and they're a little, first of all, I'd like to say we're happy that this topic is in the news, and it's in the news often, almost daily now. And so it's validating the work we do. And so that's a wonderful thing. And I'm glad the topic is getting recognition finally. But I think a lot of the people I talk to, including myself, I feel like, there's a lot of buildup to it, and I'm not sure it's going to be explosive of information as we'd like it to be. So, we're all kind of collectively holding our breath, see what's going to come out. Either way, it's a good thing for the topic, and the information it's about time that we're told the truth,
Mm-hmm. With the recent headlines surrounding this report and the very interesting videos that have been coming out, have you seen an increase in people join MUFON here in Colorado?
We have, and right now we have 20 open cases, and they run the gamut. When somebody reports a case, they'll tell you, what the shape of the craft is they saw. So we're getting some tic tacs, some triangles, oblong craft, but we have definitely seen an uptick in cases. And I really have to believe, number one, they typically go up in the summertime, spring and summer. More people are outside, they're camping, they're looking at the stars. But also I think all the the reports in the news and the media, people are just looking up and watching more than they ever were before. So we're quite busy in the state of Colorado.
Yeah, just this week I was at my front porch and I noticed a bright light and I was like, it's too early to see Venus to the west, and it turned out to be a weather balloon. But I was intrigued, and given all this UFO and UAP news coming out these days, it's you do look up at the sky more these days. There's been a lot of commentary surrounding this report regarding the stigma for pilots to come forward with sightings. Let's talk about that stigma. Just talking about UFO investigations, just talking about these reports, prompts a lot of laughter, a lot of chuckles among people. How do you swim against that stigma?
Well, you just you get brave and you start the conversation. I actually just took my son yesterday to the Air Museum over there in Lowry. And, they have wonderful volunteers that are retired military that flew these missions and these jets in Vietnam. And I just flat out asked yesterday, so have you, with all the news reports, have you ever seen anything strange in the sky? Some are willing to talk to you. Some are still a little hesitant, but you need to break through. And he said that he had known other pilots that have seen some unusual things in the sky. So the stigma is starting to lighten up a little bit. In fact, every now and again, I'll have somebody contact me and say, hey, all these years have passed. I'm ready to tell you what I experienced. And so that's a wonderful thing. And I actually told my son, I'm like, hey, I should kind of get my card out there and see if I could get more of these retired vets to talk to me about some things that they saw,
Yeah.
It's really fascinating. Yeah.
And especially with the news reports and these pilots that have appeared on 60 Minutes talking about what they saw, that adds credibility to their position too. Coming back to UFO reports in Colorado, we definitely have our share of UFO history in our state. I know this is probably a tough question, but what's the one case that really sticks out in your mind that does not meet logical explanation? The one case that you believe that, hey, there's something here.
Right. Well, first of all, we have the gamut of all the mutilation hype and Snippy the horse out in Alamosa, but we have a very credible witness, Dr. Leo Sprinkle, who is a pioneer in the field, and how he got started over 40 years ago was a couple very credible sites out in Boulder, Colorado. This was in the mid 60s. Very strange maneuvers. So, the credibility of a witness is important. The 5 observables when it comes to the way these craft maneuver in the sky is very important. It's one thing to see a satellite cruise across the sky, but when it stops, darts off, or cloaks, these type of things, it makes it, it goes way up on the credibility and interest scale for sure.
Yeah.
So Boulder has its fair share of sightings. You'd be surprised.
Yeah. When you tell people what you do, and you meet these skeptics that are very skeptical about probably about what you do, and they say everybody has an iPhone these days. Why haven't we had any good conclusive video evidence of UFOs? What's your response to that?
Well, I'm right there with them. I'll tell you, I have ebbed and flowed on the reality of sightings, especially when it comes to abductions of people. And I mean, there's sometimes I'm like, wow, is there really anything to this? But I'm telling you, I'm a researcher by heart. I love to research. I love to dig in documents. And I'm finally, after all these years, 100% convinced that there is definitely something to this phenomenon. And not only that, but another thing that keeps me, wow, yeah, there's something to this, because as you get higher up and the more you dig, there's some really interesting people that are involved in the cover up of this phenomenon. And also not only that, but also in the push to kind of do this slow drip disclosure, which I think is happening now. And if there was nothing to the phenomenon, this wouldn't be happening. So there are so many great credible cases and pilots and police officers and multiple witnesses, around the world, that there's just no way that there's nothing to this. In fact, this phenomenon, goes back to the beginning of time of humanity, that these things were spotted. So
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, always a fascinating topic. I appreciate your time, Katie, with
of
talking
course.
with me, for talking with me. So we'll see what this report says, and I think we'll keep in touch. And I'd like to come back to you and get your reaction when this report comes out. So
Absolutely.
thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to seeing what the report says too. Like everybody else, we'll
Yeah,
wait and see. So
I'm
thank you.
excited. I'm excited about it. I'm
Me
pumped.
too.
Cool.